This will be a long one, so grab some popcorn. Throwaway to protect identity, all the names are made up and blah blah blah. Let me start with a little background. I'm a 28-year-old male, and my wife is a 26-year-old female. We married 3 years ago and have been together for 6 years. When we met, I was already in my 3rd year of college for a special branch of a very productive industry, something like the US Army. You go to a different country for a few months and do some really dangerous jobs, get paid a lot, come back a few months, and so on. In the beginning, I was going for 6, 8, or even 10 months at a time in order to promote as fast as possible. Now I earn around 4 years of medial salary for my country in just 3 months. It's a hard job, but I love it. My wife was very supportive and I always knew that it was very hard for her to have this kind of lifestyle. I always tried to spoil her and compensate for my time spent away with tons of gifts and trips to exotic places. 2 years ago, when I came home after an extended contract, I had to stay in almost 2 more months because all flights and borders got shut down during COVID, but I got 20% extra salary during this time. Anyways, I came home and she told me she can't take it anymore, and that she goes crazy being alone at home with nothing to do. She lost her job during COVID and did not want to work again after that. I fully supported her because I wanted her to be happy, and money was not a problem. I was petrified, and at first, I believed she wanted to break up. Then she continued with, "I love you so much and I want you to give me a baby so I can take care of him and have a little bit of you when you are gone on contracts and quat." After 5 months of hard work with no women within 100 kilometers, making a baby was done very fast, and multiple times just to be sure, if you know what I'm talking about. I was nervous for the first month because we always feared we may not be able to make a baby. For the first 4 years we did not use any kind of protection except the pull-out method, and she never got pregnant. But after a few weeks, she wakes me up with a long kiss and a smile on her face, then shows me the test result. I was the happiest man alive. Everything changed. I was a man now, and a father, and I was on top of the world. I was going with her to every doctor appointment, and during deployment I was asking for ultrasound pics instead of nudes. Haha. The birth had no complications and everything went amazing. 1 month later, I went on another deployment to make some money that'd cover every need of our little baby. Halfway during this contract, I received a text from my wife which shattered my life. It was short and simple, and I'll never forget the 4 words that sent me into the deepest depression I'd ever had. I want a divorce and quat. I did not understand. I tried to call her to find out what happened, and nothing. After a few days of talking back and forth, she said, "I want a divorce so I can marry the love of my life and quat." I was already preparing my suitcase because I made a request to my company to send me back as an emergency. When I got home, she and the baby were gone. 2 weeks later, I was in court to settle the divorce. During this time, I found out that she'd had a lover for well over 4 years with plans to marry him as soon as the divorce was finalized. Now, the laws in my country are different, and I knew that my first priority should be a really good lawyer. My wife had a really crappy one, and she decided to speak for herself without the help of the lawyer most of the time. Her whole strategy was, "I am a woman and he is never home and quat." Well, even if the law usually favors women in my country, cheating is considered to be a breach of contract, wedding contract, and she wanted to take full custody of our children in order for me to pay child support. I was not letting that happen. I spoke with my lawyer and an accountant, and it seemed that I only had to pay child support for my base salary. My dangerous duty bonus pay wasn't included because it's for my life risk and mine alone. And because the company pays less taxes on the dangerous duty bonuses, I have a lot of them and my base salary was around 10% of my total income. When she found out that she'd get almost nothing from child support, I gave her the option of me taking full custody of the child, with a no contact rule, and never asking her for child support. She agreed in a second. Basically, she agreed to get out of our lives. We even changed the birth certificate to list me as the father and have a blank space for the mother. She gave up any kind of claim on the baby. During the trial, her lover was asked to come as a witness, and the idiot agreed. He is an AliExpress version of Andrew Tate, an alpha man who treats women like crap, which seems to turn her on, and who has a pretty good income at a small company. He makes less than half my salary, but he's always home and it's still a lot of money for our country. During the trial, he said they cheated behind my back for 3 years, that the baby was his, and that she tricked me into having a baby so I wouldn't find out about the cheating. He said all this just to make me feel horrible, I guess, because this is actually kind of illegal. My lawyer explained to me, he basically said that he knew we were married and decided to ruin the marriage. Now at this point, the child situation was already done and the agreement signed. The judge asked my wife if it was true, and she said yes and ordered a DNA test to confirm. After the DNA test confirmed what they said, the judge said she'd let me cancel the agreement and settle the situation again with my wife, now that the child was not biologically mine. I said, "No, Your Honor, this child is mine and I want to keep him. And quat. The judge was stunned for a minute, but then she said, "Well, the agreement is a valid contract, and since you don't want to void it, then Mr. L. You are a father and no one can take that child away from you. In my country, it doesn't matter who the biological parent is, it matters who's the parent in the documents. And since he knew he was the father from the beginning and didn't come to the hospital to declare it, he automatically cancelled all his paternal claims. Sounds stupid, but it makes sense in order to protect the idea of a family. If a man claims a fatherless child at the hospital, he shouldn't fear that the biological father will come back. This protects the value of family and encourages people to do a good thing and start a family. Now that the divorce was over, I got my baby and my ex-wife was out of my life. The first thing I did was hire 3 babysitters to work 8 hours a day so that my child had someone to stay with him 24/7, giving me time to prepare my revenge. I started 2 separate companies with the help of an online assistant from India. You can hire them kind of cheap and they do whatever you need online. This guy made 2 super professional companies, one in industrial credits, you give money to the business for a lower rate than the banks, and the second one was a copycat of my former company, just in the same city as him. Both were made just for one client, my ex-wife's lover. My assistant started sending tons of ads to him for my credit company, emails, targeted Google and Facebook ads, etc. I was sure that he knew that if he needed money, this was the place he could take a lot with low rates. Next, I made a lot of advertisements for the second company. But the company had only the machines and the rented space and only one worker, the cleaning lady. Every time someone called for the company, they were immediately declined because we were overbooked. My ex's lover, let's call him D, was one of them. Multiple times, actually, and he got mad every time he was rejected, because he saw how big the competition is. Now it was the time to give him the bait. Because my company had some problems in the main country, I don't even know which country it was registered in, they changed the management and wanted to make some fast profit, so the regional manager wanted to sell some of the equipment. When he heard this, he started calling and sending emails to buy them out. The response was something along the lines of, "We are an international company, we can't sell the brand but we can sell some equipment and quat." It was illegal for me to sell the company without showing him the accountant's data, which was empty, but with equipment, I could sell that with just a simple contract. He wanted the competition out of his city. He didn't even need the equipment. So the manager gave him a deal. If you buy our equipment for, let's say, 3 times the price, we can say in the contract that we will not do business again in this city. In just 2 hours, I received calls and emails from my first company for a credit for that equipment. I knew he was out of money because he spent a lot on his future wedding with my ex-wife. I sent him a contract. Based on our evaluation, the equipment wasn't worth the money, so he'd need to give us a guarantee, his company, and wouldn't be allowed to sell any equipment or company stock until he paid everything back. If he gets behind on payment for 6 months straight, I get all of it. Also, in the contract I stated that the credit company will buy the equipment directly. Basically, I just gave myself my own money. I made sure every single word of the contract was legal and was a good enough deal for him to take it. Later that same day, he sent me the signed contract. Now, normally he should be able to pay for everything. Even if the clients he hoped to gain from this company leaving are non-existent, he still should be able to pay if he gave me around 80% of his company income for the next 5 years. Fast forward a bit. On the day of the wedding, I go to give them an envelope. In my country, you give money in envelopes as a wedding gift. He started to laugh at me and tell me to get out because I'm not invited and he doesn't need my money. I smiled and told him to open it. He looked inside and was expecting to come to court next week. He laughed and asked what it was, so I told him, "See you in court, enjoy your wedding night." And quat. The next week he came, I was suing him for child support. As I said, in my country, if you're aware that you have a child and refuse to go to the hospital to recognize him, you are no longer the father but are still forced to pay child support, and it's actually an increased rate because you tried to dodge responsibility. He didn't want to pay, so he tried to say that he wanted the child or co-custody since he's the biological father and blood related and blah blah blah. This made me happy, because I wanted to drag the trial on as much as possible to drain him of all his money. But I couldn't after the judge saw all his declarations during the divorce trial. She ended the trial really fast and forced him to pay me 40% of his personal and company income, from the time the child was born until he finishes college, or I get married. And guess who didn't manage to pay? And guess who is the new owner of his company? Now I don't work anymore, I just run his company and spend almost all my time with my child. Update: a lot of people ask me about the child and the fact that I'm not the bio dad. I answered some comments, but I want to put this answer here so people will stop asking. I do not plan to hide that fact from my child. As I said in a previous comment, we'll talk about this when the time comes, in high school maybe, or around that age. Until then, I'll try to be the best friend and paternal figure I can be, and if my child decides to go to the bio father, then I won't have any objections. And quat. Deceive into bonding? I need this child more than you think. After all that happened, I don't want a relationship anymore, and I'm very lonely. Between that and being financially free, I have no purpose in life anymore. And about the statistics, yes, statistics don't lie. And I did punish paternity fraud. But I punished the idiot who did it, not the innocent child. I harass him every month if he is one day late on child support, and I have a lawyer on payday just to mess with him and scare him with another court call. I do not give a frick about every man and blah blah blah. I take care of myself and my child, other people are not my business. If you are so insecure that you think, I must punish my child so women will be scared to cheat on me, then maybe you're the problem.